Ecogas was created to solve food waste problems for New Zealand homes and businesses. They partner with like-minded businesses to redirect food waste away from landfills and instead use it to create sustainable energy, biogas and biofertiliser. Today I'm talking with Alzbeta Bouskova, General Manager of Ecogas, who is an expert in anaerobic digestion and resource recovery from organic residues. Hello, Alzbeta.
Hello, Adrian. Thank you for
Nice to
having
meet
us.
you.
Great to meet you too.
Maybe I'll just start with Ecogas as a bit of an overview. What it's up to, what they're up to there.
Yeah, it's actually a really cool part of the whole story. Ecogas is a partnership between two companies, EcoStock and Pioneer Energy, and they bring different skills into the project. So EcoStock is an Auckland-based, New Zealand-based company that have been in the business of collecting commercial food waste and transforming that into stock feed. So essentially recovering food from our food chain, from producers to retailers, and trying to make something good out of it by taking it to farmers as a stock feed. The other part of the partnership is Pioneer Energy. And it's one of those companies that not many people have heard of, but they're doing some amazing work in the space of renewable electricity and renewable energy generation. It's actually a community-owned company, so they're owned by Central Lakes Trust, and all the profits of Pioneer Energy go back into the community of Central Otago. The trust then decides what they want to do with the money and whether they invest it into the community or into ventures like ours, being Ecogas. So the journey started with EcoStock, where they always had a portion of the waste that they couldn't feed back to animals because of the MPI regulations. So you're not allowed to feed animal protein back to animals. And this portion of the waste always ended up in landfills. And Andrew Fisher, he's the owner of the company. He is a very entrepreneurial businessman, and he came up with the idea of anaerobic digestion. It's actually a technology that has been used all around the world in tens of thousands of plants, like ours has been built and used for processing of organic waste. And he brought the concept into New Zealand and then partnered with Pioneer Energy to execute the first project in New Zealand, being the Ripara plant that we've just started.
Oh, yeah. And how long has that plant been running for now then?
We've started in September. It's a bit of a slow, gradual process. We often compare the digestion process to a metal cow because of the similarity of the processes that happen in cows' stomachs. And so we started with a calf in September last year, and we now have probably a teenager, juvenile cow, and still building up towards and growing towards a fully established mature cow. So it's a slow, gradual process, but we are at about 30% of our capacity at the moment.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because I was in the news recently about Auckland.
That's correct.
Produce being sent to you.
That's correct. It's it's also a very, very interesting part of the story. We've started with a concept for a much smaller plant that was supposed to service the commercial and industrial sector in the Waikato and Auckland region. And halfway through our resource consent process, Auckland Council issued a tender for processing of organic food waste from the households. And we were lucky enough to secure that contract, and it essentially tripled the size of the plant overnight, gold-plated everything, but also underwritten essentially the lifetime of the project with a 20-year contract from Auckland Council for a large amount of feedstock.
So is that all the stuff in the little recycled boxes being sent to you then?
So every household will get a small bin and a small kitchen caddy, and it's I think it's a 20-litre bin, and that gets collected weekly, similar to normal rubbish or recycling. And so it's heading to the existing collection services.
Yeah. So how much produce is coming from Auckland to the plant?
At the moment, it's still at the beginning. So Auckland Council is rolling out the services gradually across the whole city, and so at the moment we're capturing stuff from Waitakere, and we'll be rolling out towards the North Shore and then coming back through the city down south. So it's a 6 months rollout, and we are at the beginning. We started 2 months ago. So
yeah. My parents have their bins.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. We've had it for a while. Those short.
That's correct. Yeah. It was actually very, I think, visionary from Auckland Council to issue a contract for such a long-term contract for a technology that hasn't been done in New Zealand, but they completely understood that we need a long-term security of feedstock to be able to undertake a project of this size and of this scale. And so, big kudos to Auckland Council for having that vision and executing it.
Yeah. How does the process actually work? Because I read it's that anaerobic is different to, say, like composting is a difference.
Yeah, that's correct. Composting happens with the help of oxygen from the air, and where the bacteria break it down and they use oxygen as an energy source. In anaerobic digestion, all of that is happening without oxygen, so that's the anaerobic. So that means without oxygen. But I've made the parallel to the cow's stomach, and it's essentially very similar to what's happening there. We all know how cows burp methane. So very similar types of enzymes and bacteria involved in our process. And but we collect the methane that our little digesters burp, and we turn that into energy. So it's a biological process. It's a breakdown through enzymes and bacteria, and it breaks food waste, all the fats and proteins and carbohydrates, and it extracts the energy or harvests the energy that is still remaining in the food, and turns that into carbon dioxide and methane, and that comes out as what we call a biogas. And we use that biogas to generate electricity and heat, and or could be even used as a transport fuel. And the nutrients from the food and the trace elements and all the good stuff that is left behind has gone into what we call digestate or biofertiliser, which is a liquid product of the process. So comparing it again to the cow, it's the methane that they burp and the manure that they spit out at the other end.
So how long does that process take? So this stuff arrives from Auckland. How long does the process take to?
From gate to gate, it's about 70 days. But the actual breakdown of the food is done in about 30 or 40 days. So.
So where's the was it going? Was it electricity going to? Was it tomato?
Oh yeah. So we take some of the biogas and we generate electricity and heat to run our own plant. So we have to keep the digesters warm, and we've got a pasteurization at the end to sterilize the digestate product, the fertilizer product. So we need heat for that, and we need power to run our machinery and the digesters. And so we use some of the gas to generate our own electricity and heat. We also send some of the heat to our neighboring glass houses, tennis and grouse glass houses. That are literally 400 meters down the road. And we've partnered with First Gas to what we call upgrade the remaining portion of the biogas into biomethane. And what I mean by upgrading is essentially splitting the carbon dioxide and the methane and the methane gets compressed and injected into natural gas grid as a renewable substitute for natural gas or renewable natural gas, and the carbon dioxide is going to go to the glass houses as well, and we're working on a business case to try and bottle the remaining CO2. There's a acute shortage of carbon dioxide in the food industry in New Zealand, so I'll try and harvest that as well and put it back into the food industry.
So that sort of ties into that circular economy.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. We try to essentially, apart from the packaging that we recover from the commercial and the household food waste that has made its way into our feedstock, everything else essentially gets utilized. We use all of the gas, use all of the digest fertilizer, and so trying to make the best of the use for it.
How much more can the plant take before you sort of need to expand further? Or
we've got a plan to build another digester on the side. At the moment, as the plant is, we have a capacity to process 75,000 tons of food waste. With the additional digester, we could add another 25,000 tons per year. So Auckland Council is expected to start at about 50,000 tons per year in the first year, and then it's expected to grow year on year as people get more used to the service, as the city grows, and so it's expected to grow into that 75,000 tons per annum in the next 5 to 10 years.
I was interested to read on the Bioenergy Association. They said it's the most used form of renewable energy in the world. So I guess New Zealand must be a bit behind in the development.
A little bit. But, I've heard this saying this morning that it's always the second mouse that eats the cheese that gets the cheese. And so we're essentially jumping on decades of growth and development in this space. And what it enabled us is to go around and pick the best technologies and put them into repertoire. So we've sort of leapt forward and skipped decades of development and failures, and we're able to bring in a technology that is probably the best in class. And we needed to do that because we essentially have one shot at this. If we don't get it right, I don't think there'll be many digesters in the country. So we absolutely knew that we need to get this project right, and all the other future projects. And we've invested heavily into partnerships with advisors, overseas advisors, and experts in the field, and to make sure that the plant, when it's built, actually delivers the results that it's meant to.
Who's sort of the world leaders in this area?
And the Germans always, and when it comes to technology. And sorry about the stereotype, but actually Denmark is probably leading the space because they have been able to replace 20% of their natural gas with biomethane already. That's probably thanks to the strong agriculture sector in Denmark. So they harvest all the manure from the pigs and cows in the country and turn that into biomethane. So Scandinavian countries, Germany, UK has got a good hundreds of these plants for food waste as well. It's been everywhere, to be honest.
And how did you get interested in this area?
I actually I went studying to Scandinavia, and that's when I saw anaerobic digestion, and I was really, really lucky to do my master's and PhD with the leading professors in this field, and so ever since we came to New Zealand, I've been trying to promote this concept. First, in my role as a process engineer, and going forward, and
is it difficult to get people on board?
I suppose the reason why we don't have these digesters around the country yet is because we've got a different economic drivers and economic landscape And what drives the uptake of this technology in the other countries is the generation of the renewable energy. And in our country, renewable electricity our electricity has been highly renewable and very cheap. And so the business case essentially stands on waste, on the waste sector. And so it only became economical when disposal of waste became more expensive. And so avoiding disposal cost for waste has become the main revenue driver in this country. And whilst all the other countries are driving their revenue mostly from the energy they generate.
So do you say in 5 years' time, is this going to? Do you think this will be, plants all around New Zealand, sort of thing?
I would like to hope so. We are working on 2 projects that are in a reasonably developed state, and I have no doubt other people are looking into it as well. So it's we are literally following just what the rest of the world is doing in food waste, and if we are serious about transitioning to circular economy, low carbon economy, then anaerobic digestion is a must-have, not a nice-to-have, because that's really the only way we can, one of the ways that we can harvest the nutrients and the energy from waste that is no longer safe for humans or animals to eat.
You just won an award, didn't you, a couple of days ago? I saw on Facebook, was it?
Yeah, yeah, Andrew Fisher. So Andrew is his name absolutely needs to be mentioned. He has been nominated and awarded by Waste Mints for his leadership in the organic space.
Yeah, I listened to him talk at the Priority One talk.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago. That was really interesting.
Yeah, he's great. He's always developing new things. He's working on plastics recycling, and so this is the start of the journey for us. And hopefully we'll get to do these projects more all around the country.
Yeah, and are you powering your cars by sort of doing EVs? How does that work?
Yeah, so the same way we take the biogas we produce and turn that into electricity through an internal combustion engine. It's a big 1.1 megawatt engine that we have on site, and the electricity runs our machinery on site, but we also feed it into our EVs. So
what EVs have you got? Just as a,
I've got a Kona. Is it Hyundai? Hyundai Kona. Yeah. And sorry, I'm such not a car person. And we have an electric truck on site as well, and we also have a I'll remember that one, the last one. No, can't remember. Sorry.
That's right.
MG. Sorry. One of those MGs.
They've got one. Yeah.
I should have done my research. I'm not coming onto your podcast.
Yeah, that's a good review. Does that have you noticed any difference between that and sort of the petrol cars as well?
Yeah, I certainly do. It's I notice it in the fuel bill, right? It's so much more economic. I drive from Auckland to Rotorua on a fortnightly basis, and it costs me a fraction of what we would have spent on petrol, and yeah, it's nice and quiet. I love my EV.
Yeah, that's good. Maybe just sort of on summing up on the technology. I guess it's advancing quite quickly. What's that going to be? Say 5 years of technological changes. What's the sort of the big changes coming up?
Oh, the big changes. Where this technology is moving is, and again, it's driven by external factors. Europe is now heavily subsidizing these projects. The European Union and the European countries are putting huge amounts of investment into these projects to generate renewable gas and to replace replace natural gas from Russia. And so that was unfortunately crisis generated the drive. But what comes with it is that the CO2 that we produce as a byproduct of the biomethane upgrading gets either used as a food grade CO2 or gets captured into carbon storage and carbon storage unit. So that's probably the way the world is moving into the biomethane space. And there's a lot of transition also into the transport space. So tractors and trucks driving on CNG. That's the other space, I suppose.
So I guess summing up is for consumers, we should just be using our bins more.
It's making sure you use them properly. I think it's the message. So trying to make what our business is about in its raw form is about taking food waste away from landfills. And because if food waste goes to landfills, you have lost all the nutrients that you could otherwise reuse. And some of the landfills capture the methane that it releases and generate electricity from it, but the efficiency of the process is still very low. So it's kind of a lost opportunity. So our business is about making sure that the food that we separate from our general bin gets used to its maximum potential. And doesn't.
This is the process.
It's so we capture good 99% of the energy from the food, and let's say 95% of the energy, because the bacteria still need a little bit of the energy to grow and multiply and sustain themselves. They're quite low maintenance bugs, to be honest. So they need a little bit, hence the 5%. And we essentially all of the nutrients and trace elements stay behind and get used. So there's close to 99% of the nutrients then go out as a fertilizer.
Oh, that's great. Great. That's my points. Is there anything else you want to sort of cover off?
No, I think this was a great overview of what we do, and I suppose the potential for this technology in our country is, we have Rotorua that services the largest city in the country. But what we often say is that we are a country of 5 million, but we are feeding 40 million through our export industry. And so there's a big wide world behind our little bins that lies with the industries and with the food processors and food producers. And so it's not just what we separate in our households. It's even more maybe about our businesses and our industries doing the right thing as well. And because that's where we can really make some serious gains in terms of decarbonization and reducing emissions and really going circular. And we can lead the space with having truly circular businesses. So I suppose that's my pitch for your listeners. Think beyond your own household and go and ask your employer or your business whether they know where food waste is going. And when we start exploring that space, we'll probably discover a lot more potential than anybody can appreciate.
Oh, that's a good point to finish. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. This was great. Awesome. Thank you, Adrian.
Thanks for watching this episode. A subscribe would be great to help the channel along. And here's another episode on EVs to watch right here.